Game started.
Jinxter. Okay, well, let's try d4. Time to think. Jinxter. What's your move against d4? e6. Okay, you can play that. Well, let's play e4. Maybe we'll get a French defense. Or we can play c5 for a Sicilian. Or we can go for, okay, a French defense. Knight c3, allowing win-hour or classical variations. Okay, I've been playing the Steinitz variation a lot, where you just push right away and grab a big center. Let's try something a little different. Bishop to g5. Basically, the idea is that you push the pawn and trade off the dark squared bishop. Kind of a simple, a simple plan. But this is black's good bishop. Leaves him with the bad bishop. And black has ways to combat this, of course. So I was thinking maybe I can play f4. I don't like, as I say, I usually play the classical, so I don't know if I can actually get away with f4. It's sometimes not a playable move. It weakens the king side, so he can play c5 and try and take here. And I don't have a dark squared bishop defending things, so I probably want to play bishop to d3, knight e2. But there's a problem with bishop d3 and knight e2, which is the bishop gets trapped. Bishop d3, knight e2, and he pushes c5. So if I play bishop d3, he can play knight c6, immediately putting pressure on this pawn. Maybe I just take. Queen takes. Then he's got this diagonal where he where he has a lot of pressure. Okay, let's play some kind of waiting move. I don't want to play knight e2 right away. Oh, it's tempting. How about knight b5 to d6? I want to move the knight off of this square, so I can put a pawn on c3 and support the center. And if he kicks the knight with a6, then I'll go to d6 here. Yeah, if he does that, just play a c3. That's my idea. And now it's safe for me to develop the bishop. I can even develop it to e2, which is probably a bit more respectable. I don't want to block the queen, so I want as much defense on the d4 point as I can get. So bishop e2 and then castles is my plan. Well, he's going to let me take with the knight. Why don't I do that? I was expecting him to kick the knight first, which forces me to decide between a6 and a3 rather. Okay. And I don't want to, I guess I have to take that. He's threatening just to win a pawn there. Pawn takes, knight takes. Yeah, that's the problem with the French. These counterattacks on the center come very fast. I mean, that's why it's a good opening for black. I play it as black myself, so tricky to play for white. So he has a lot of choices here. He can take with a pawn, he can take with the rook, he can take with the queen, or he could take with the knight. So when he takes with the queen, I need to defend this pawn. I still haven't castled. or develop my light squared bishop. But he hasn't developed his light squared bishop. So this is a potentially bad piece. Let's see. He's going to hop in here to e4. Yeah. And from e4 it can go to c3, d2, f2, and g3. So I think that's okay. I'm going to allow that and then castle and then maybe chase the knight away later. That's my plan. And I need to be able to trade off the d-pawn, e-pawn. If he advances the e-pawn, I want to just take it. So I need lots of defense of this f3 point. So bishop here, queen here, castling and bring the rook onto that file. That's my plan. And in the long run, maybe get pressure against the backwards e-pawn. If I can blockade it here on... if I can blockade the pawn on e5 there, that would be great. And this, of course, opens up this diagonal, but he doesn't have his dark squared bishop anymore, so I just have to worry about the queen showing up on this diagonal. A queen and a knight combination on this diagonal can be dangerous. Okay, but I could play something like knight takes knight. Bishop takes a knight here. Let's think about it now. Knight to... and I guess that's no good. If I play knight to e5, he has knight takes, pawn takes with a double attack on the queen, but the queen can just take the pawn. So I need to get rid of this knight. And then I can put a knight here. So he's got a good knight, and I've got a good knight. And I can trade off his good knight. That's my plan. Bishop, maybe bishop to d3, and bishop takes knight. And he'll have these double d-pawns supported by his bishop. But I can blockade them and go after him in the long run. Maybe just take his bishop and grab a pawn. So I think I can get rid of his nasty knight. You know, I should be looking at tactics too. I'm sorry, I've been kind of focused single-mindedly on these little ideas. It's also, you know, when the knight comes in here, he jumps away. Okay, where do I want the bishop? If I put the bishop on c2, he has a threat eventually of pushing d4, taking advantage of the rook hitting the bishop. That's kind of a long-term idea. But if I go all the way back to b1, it blocks in the rook. So I'm going to just try and keep an eye out for that tactic. And then maybe queen. The queen all the way out to h. And he's hitting my rook. That's annoying. Queen to h5 here threatens a check. Yeah, actually threatens mate on h7 with the bishop here. So the rook on f2 defends the bishop on c2, so I can take off with the queen, hopefully. The knight here is standing by to do some useful things. So he's covering that. I can't play queen h5 anymore. I can play I can play queen g4. Queen g4 and rook to e1. Maybe pressure on the e-pawn. His bishop is loose over here. Maybe an idea to go after that at some point. His knight, wherever his knight comes in, is covered by my bishop, and if the knight jumps in here somewhere, I'm probably just going to take it. The knight and the bishop have double coverage over here. He's moved his king away from the pin. This is not loose yet. Is there a way to quickly attack it? I can kick the knight with a pawn move, but it's defended by the knight and the queen. I have knight to f7 check if this rook is ever distracted. Okay, but a rook on the e-file, going after the backwards pawn, seems like a pretty logical thing to try. What's the time? Okay, we got 4 minutes left. He's defended his knight. Do I have any good squares that I can move the knight to? Knight here. Knight back to C, or F3. Knight to back to F3, and then to and then to D4, hitting the bishop and hitting the pawn. And yeah, so he can go for the trade. And if the knight, that's annoying. If the knight comes there, it's a fork. So let's go here. Bishop takes, knight takes, and knight to, no, bishop takes, rook takes, and knight to, knight to D3 is not a fork anymore. It is kind of annoying. Ah, so he defended there. Okay, let's force something with that bishop. And after he takes, I could take with either the knight or the rook, because this square is covered now. I still want to take with the rook, I think. Yeah, so he's in on this square, covering the dark squares here, so I have something to watch out for on the dark squares. Let's see, can I activate my... So I have a knight and a queen on that, and he's got a rook and a queen, so that's defended. If I play C4, takes, rook takes, my knight's stranded. Is the... I don't think a rook sack is a good idea. But I'm going to pile up on the D file anyway, just to, I mean the E file, just to discourage this knight from moving. Need to get away from this pin. So we had both rooks here. I could sacrifice a rook for a knight and a pawn. Yeah, so he's going to try and bring his knight in over here, huh? Well, knight c6 again. So that I have queen to h4 if he plays rook to g4. And that queen has nowhere to go. He can sacrifice on g3 here. Knight takes, pawn takes, rook takes. It's two pieces, two pawns for the knight. Probably not good. Probably not good. So he just went back to the okay. Well, I'm going to pile up on the on the E file. So I don't want to play knight to... Yeah, he's doing that anyway. I was going to say I don't want to play knight to... knight to c3, f3. Knight to, I don't want to play knight to f3 because he's got a pin on it. But here, I guess I have to... I can't allow him to gain control of the f file. Here, I have to contest it. So now he's got a passed pawn.
Check.
And I am not blockading it like I should. I need to play knight to c3, but he's covering c3. Maybe I just play rook here. Yeah, so my knight has no moves. I need to... that is terrible, but I need to create some space for my knight. I can't leave a knight on the rim with no moves. That's ridiculous. So I'm allowing this trade just to allow my knight to have a square to move to. Okay, so how does this endgame look? If I take... Well, I don't have to take. I can play the knight here. He takes, I take, he takes, I take. It brings my king forward. I have to allow the endgame. There's no two ways about it. And, well, the one thing to think about is sometimes the outside passed pawn is more valuable than the inside passed pawn. We'll see if that's true in this case. I mean, my king is going to be over here. I think it's a draw. I think I can never... He needs to push that pawn immediately, yeah. And once he does that, I can never really make any progress. So my king can stay here. Or here. And I need to blockade my opponent's entry, so I don't want to let him get in. So now if he pushes the h-pawn, I will let it come all the way to h4, and then I will play g4. And on these moves, what to do? Let's see, if I push here, and he pushes, take, 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 I push, he goes forward. This is a little bit interesting. If I push to c4, he pushes with check, and I go here, blockading those pawns, and if he takes, that gives me another passed pawn over here. If he doesn't take, I push on and I get another passed pawn. So that's actually a way of creating a second passed pawn. So here, I have to push his king back.
Check.
Because it doesn't work unless I can get to this square. I need to be able to get to the e4 square. No, this is bad. He takes. Yeah, he takes. I get to the e4 square, but he can take these pawns and I can never take his. So this is a losing end game. Let's see how he plays it. I think he just moves his king forward, because I don't have a passed pawn anywhere. Unless I can get to this one. But his king always hangs around. Yeah, that's a problem. So I want to go here. He takes. I go here, attacking his pawn. He takes. I take, and then these guys queen. So as soon as I leave, this guy queens, and I'm just too slow to stop anything else. Okay, that did not work. I'll just resign here. Okay, good game.
Resigns.
I will upload this and do a post-mortem. See you guys later.